Hugo Chavez said, I'm going to take the property of the rich and I'm going to give it to you guys. And they're all out there with their red hats and they were moving poor people onto the golf courses and taking over golf. And the poor, yay, yay. And
actually,
they love this. It's
true.
like Eva Perón.
This is not true. None of this is true. I'm actually married to Venezuela. I know this history very well. Hugo Chavez came in the 1990s and he said the exact opposite. He ran as a third-party candidate, as a kind of Ross Perot, and he said, I am not a socialist. I am pro-business. He goes, both parties are corrupt, which was true. And he said, I will steer a middle course. And a lot of Venezuelans, by the way, Venezuela was not a desperately poor country. This was not India.
They were wealthy, right?
Venezuela was in some ways wealthier than the United States with oil wealth, yeah. Debbie, my wife, when she grew up, she says when she came from Venezuela, Caracas, to the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, she thought she was moving to a third world country.
Wow.
Because she walked in and there was she's like, what kind of houses are here? It's all so ramshackled and run down and people are like rednecks, And anyway, the point is, Hugo Chavez pulled a fast one. And now the moment he got in, he allied with Castro. Now, he always had those roots, but he didn't campaign on that.
Wow.
And while they had a free election in Venezuela in the 1990s, they have not had a free election since. I mean, they have been rigging the elections openly.
Well, it may have been rigged, but when he ran for re-election, he absolutely ran on taking from the rich and giving to the poor. And did your wife ever look around in Caracas? Because the poor people way outnumber the rich. And that, by the way, I think it's an important point that you make. It's not a good way. It's not the American way. What set America apart from most other countries, and especially Latin America for its entire existence, was this vast, vast, vast middle class. Everybody had a pretty high standard of living. And by bringing in the third world, we're going to end up like that with your rich wife and probably everyone in this room in this tiny little strata, and then masses and masses of peasants.
Well, I mean, Venezuela was a country that it does have more poor people than rich people, for sure. And so Hugo Chavez was able to exploit that division.
Well, I think that's true everywhere.
That's true everywhere.
Yeah.
But also,
it wasn't in this country. No, it was a vast middle class, and we're losing that now. And that is going to help a party that will do things like your police state stuff.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree with that for sure in this country. But look, there are middle classes emerging in other countries, and middle classes by themselves don't protect countries. I mean, India now has a big middle class. It didn't when I was a kid. India was a small sliver of rich people and then a giant group of poor people. But now there are quite 200 or 300 million middle class people in India.
How are they able to facilitate that? I mean, what changed?
Well,
what are they doing that Venezuela's not?
India has benefited, as China has, from this massive globalization where by and large the labor pool and the sort of educated pool were deployed to provide both menial work but also intelligent work for lower cost. And so, for the last 30 years, people are talking about the India price and the China price. In other words, you can make steel over here or you can make it in China for half of that. And the same has been true of India. India's been providing, as you call the airlines, you get some Indian guy, but why? It's because that guy's charging 1/3 in India to what it would cost to hire a guy here. So that's globalization in that sense has been very good for India.
It's a labor market drug addiction. It's destroying us.
It is. And
everyone complains about it. Everyone complains about we can't get customer service anymore.
Yes.
We can't solve our problems. You finally get someone on the phone and they don't understand what you're talking about and they can't help you because they're thousands of miles away. And I dealt with this recently when United Airlines in the middle of the night changed my flight to a different flight, bumping me from first to coach in the back without telling me. And
it sounds like Delta.
Look, I'm flying back after a medical trip. I have to work first thing in the morning. There's a reason I fly first class. I have to sleep. Otherwise, I'm not getting work done.
Yeah.
And without telling me, they switched my flight. It's a first world problem. Totally fine. Totally get it. Look at me complaining about my first class ticket. But I called to get some assistance. Not a single person could help me. There's no employees.
Did you ever get an explanation?
Nope. Well, they said that there was the one of the connecting flights was delayed, but there was no reason for them to switch my flight. So I was originally flying from Vegas to, I think, like Houston to DC, and there were options in Houston. I think it was it Houston? I don't know. Or was it Dallas? Whatever one's the really big hub.
Dallas.
And was it Dallas? There's a bunch of options I could have taken. They instead diverted me to Denver without telling me. And so that's just an annoyance.
Don't you think
But
a
there-
lot of this, I mean, it is a huge, huge problem. I think we've all experienced the lack of employees. Isn't this still an after effect from COVID and paying people to stay home and do nothing? That was a pretty devastating year. And it seems to me that is when it started.
I agree, but I mean, the trope of someone calling customer service and getting someone in India, Turkey, or China or something like this has been around for a really long time.
I mean, and not just customer service. I mean, you walk into a store or
Restaurant,
a
yep.
restaurant. You
Air
don't
traffic
get
controllers.
the idea that anybody wants to help you.
Yeah.
You're looking for shoes. It's kind of like you're on your own. You find your shoes, and then you have to chase down somebody.
The
and
employees are
beg
avoiding
them.
eye contact with you.
Exactly.
Please don't
Well,
come
if
near
you
me.
see an employee, I'd mostly just see not as many employees as they need. I mean, it shows you how the shutdowns, which totally didn't need to happen. Also, I don't know if you saw this was in yesterday's New York Times, ACT. That's another, there's SAT and ACT.
ACT scores are down.
But shockingly,
Yeah.
like never before. I mean, sometimes they go up, they go down. We're always supposed to be.
There's a huge plummet in the last
horrified by
5
this.
years, and they're the lowest
And
since
it was
1991.
43% could not pass. Apparently, I didn't take ACT. I'm SAT side of the country. But there are 5 different sections of it, like history, math, English, that sort of thing. 43% couldn't even get to qualified on those 5.
Yeah.
And they're saying it's COVID. I think you got to throw in immigration.
I think it's a bunch of stuff.
Well, it's not just it's COVID and it's immigration, but I think it's also just the universities have
These are high school kids.
high school kids, but I mean merit is no longer a central defining concept of America. When I came to America, I thought of myself as, listen, the beauty of America is you can start out at the bottom of the ladder, and of course I'd come with like $500 in my pocket. I'm like, you know, but if you're smart, you're hardworking, you're creative, you come up with new ideas, merit is going to be the transmission belt that's going to move you ahead. Who can say that with a straight face today?
Right.
No, in fact, I think they prefer people who are not talented. I think all of the schools and public schools cater to the lowest common denominator in class. I mean, you see schools cutting gifted and talented programs across the board.
Yes.
There is a reason that students who are qualified for college do not want to go. It's not a system of promise. It's just credentialism that actually doesn't cater to helping them achieve anything.
Yes, we ought to be finding the Elon Musks and Peter Thiels and putting all of our money into them. But instead,
Well,
we
I
have
mean-
endless programs for kids and put the square block in the red hole.
Well, we don't offer them any alternatives, right? Like if you are not someone who wants to go to college, that's sort of it. Your school is then saying, well, you're hurting our numbers because it looks better for us to the government if we enroll you in college.
Should
Well, the
not go to
remarkable thing-
college. You can make
Agreed.
so much more money not going to college. College, everybody knows it's a 4-year vacation. You learn nothing. The only reason
And you go into massive
that
amounts
they
of
can
debt.
charge the only reason people do that is the Supreme Court ruled IQ tests unconstitutional. You could give any employee a 5-minute IQ test, and that will teach you everything you need to know for any job, whether it's busboy. You always want the smarter person for the job. But you can't do that. The SAT and ACT are basically IQ tests. So what you are doing is paying $200,000 to get around the Supreme Court's rule that the employer can't give you an IQ test. So just take the SAT and submit that to your employer.
So a buddy of mine was running a mid-size marketing firm. He had a couple dozen clients, and as he was expanding, he needed to hire people to manage the social media platforms of these various restaurants and businesses. So of course he goes on various job posting boards and says, here's what we're looking for, blah, 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 college degree required. He ended up firing, several people every week. Problems, phone call. What do I do? They're panicking. This image was offending someone. What do I do? And he's just like, figure it out. You're a social media manager. This is your job. This is why we look for people with expertise. And that's fired. Finally, he's running out of money because he's gone through so many employees. So he posts on Craigslist and he gets a couple applications from some people. I think they were just high school grads. They may have dropped out. And they said they had moved to California to pursue acting. And he said, well, they're willing to get paid substantially less. And so at this point, with how much money I've got left, wasting money on these people, I'm going to hire them. So then he tells me that the first week they're there, he gets not a single text or phone call. He gets worried. He's like, what's going on? He comes into the office at the end of the day, how things are going. Like, everything's good, boss.
Yep.
And he's like, no problems. Oh, there was a problem with one of the companies. They were upset about one of the photos. We took care of it. And he was like, you took care of it? Yeah. We just hit him up. We asked him what the issue was. We gave him some solutions, and then we implemented it. There was nothing to worry about. And he said to me, here's the thing. These kids who spent their whole lives going to school and being told what to do, couldn't solve problems because whenever they had a problem, they were told what to do.
And being patted on the head for whatever they did.
Participation awards. But these two people that had moved to California to pursue acting were individuals who decided what was right for themselves and were going to pursue their own vision. And it's like, I think that transits in the workplace. These are people who are like, I'll figure it out. Whereas the college kids were like, please tell me what to do.